As in, see,
It's okay.
in front of. Yeah, I bet you're gonna put that in too. Me freaking out. I don't like being in front of cameras, so you can see.
All right. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Driver's Stories, and today I have a special episode just for you guys. One of my buddy Vinnie and his 1993 Mazda RX-7 that he built by himself. What's going on, Vinnie?
How's it going?
And good. Man, this is so beautiful, Vinnie.
You know, born and raised in Fresno, now live in Clovis. Yeah, I got into cars since I was a kid. My brother and his friends. I always hung out with my brother's friends, so they were all into the car. We're all into the car scene. And that was like maybe around mid-90s. Games like Gran Turismo and Tokyo Extreme Racing, Automodelista, things like that really inspires to get on the scene. I'm always into import. My first car was a 92 Honda Civic, but I was into just styling. I wanted to just make it look cool. So I decided to put S15 lights on it. And that's like way back then. So it's like, that's a big deal.
That's like a super street type of thing.
So I brought pictures. So this is how we used to show pictures back then. I actually brought an album.
Okay,
so that's
cool.
when I was trying to get into it. I didn't know how to do body work, so I self-taught myself. And that's like, even before, you couldn't just easily Google it. You have to actually just learn it, get books, try to figure it out. One time I put Bondo on, I didn't put hardener, and I was wondering why it didn't harden. I'm like, why is it still tacky? 2 days later, I'm like, why is it still tacky? My brother said, well, you have to put this hardener on in order for it to cure.
To cure, yeah.
Oh, so things like that.
Process,
So I did my first car. I didn't drive it. I just kept it at home. I used to walk home from work, just trying to save up the most money and trying to get it done as fast as possible.
So why did you get into a Honda Civic? Was it just
because I love the hatchback?
At the time, it was just.
I love the hatchback, the styling. It's still now. It's timeless. It's beautiful. It's just a work of art.
Wow.
S15 headlights. So I sold the interior myself because. And you see it's kind of janky. Trying to sew the little S emblem, that was horrible.
I think at that time they were doing the S15 and the Type R headlights.
Yeah. That during that time. Yeah. I think this is in 2001 I got it done. Sold that car because I wanted to do something different. And I remember just seeing in a magazine, and it was one of those import magazines, and it was a FD, and it had the GTC body kit, and it was like super clean. It was a red, and it was like, dude, I want this car. I really want it. Oh, it's Rotary. You shouldn't get it because you don't know how to work on it. And when people say you shouldn't do it, I end up just doing it. So I end up buying a shell, and I figured I'll just learn how to work on it, even though I didn't know how to work on cars. I had to learn how to do wiring, how to understand wiring, which is another language when you try to understand wiring, understand the motor, especially a rotary motor. So I spent a lot of time on the forums just reading, but actually basically turned into a mechanic. Been a body man for 10 years, and during that time my wife went into school. I decided to get away from the import scene. During that time I just decided, I'm kind of tired of the scene. I just don't want to be around it. I don't like how some of the mentality was during that time. So I stayed away from it, and I got into a new interest, which one night I was drinking with some friends, and I saw one of my friends was so excited. It was near Halloween. He was like, yeah, I'm making my own suit. I put stilts and this and that. I'm like, man, this is weird. I'm kind of like jealous. Why is he so excited? Why is he happy? I want to be like him. I want to be happy like him. Why does he look so happy when he's talking about building costumes? So I was so intrigued by it. And then I started making costumes, and his was pretty simple, but I went to the extreme. I started learning how to airbrush, you know, sculpting, learning how to sculpt, making molds. So the reason why I'm telling you all this story is because after I started making all these costumes, I made a lot of molds, which involves a lot of fiberglass work and modification, learning how to design stuff. And then I knew eventually when I do go back into working in the cars that this will benefit me. And I know this skill, all this traits that I'm learning from making monsters and creatures and masks and things like that will eventually go back into my you know, into my passion of working on cars. And this car was, this guy was stationed from the military, from Marines, some guy named Charles, and he bring the car over, bring it back, but then he just had a newborn. This car was just a project car. It was like, it had a dent, it was a lot of work that needed to be done to it, electrical issues, pretty much a lot of stuff that needs to be done to it. The body was just all kind of janky, but the engine was perfectly fine, you know, everything was fine. It just needed a lot of work. So I decided to work on it and build it up, and every day I just worked on it for over a year. I just worked on it. I think the hardest part is being consistent and having to do, just having to mentally just keep pushing forward and be able to do it. What inspired me was it's the time attack look. It just looks cool and it's aggressive. It really, I mean, you see this car when it's driving, it stands out as a sore thumb. But the reason why I kept with this look, because it just looks more aggressive, and I just wanted to try something different, so I did end up going with the R Magic. And then they don't make gurneys for this, but they have it on a different hood for RX-7s, so I decided to make my own. I blocked out the front vent because it reminded me too much of a Viper, so that's been shaved off. I made this intake. This was actually inspired by kind of like the Nismos. You notice how they have two of them on each side with the Nismo, like I think it's a 370Z. They have that little. So I kind of did that style. Made these vents because I just felt like the whole time I was kind of doodling. I'm like, oh, let me make some vents. The turbo fans, kind of inspired by the 7A7B race car. They had front turbo fans, and during the 70s and all that, that was a thing. Made these. These are kind of inspired by the Toyotas with the what is it called, the wind deflectors. It's supposed to be for noise, but it looks cool. So.
And like you said earlier, these were like spoon inspired here, right?
Yeah. I got some replica spoon mirrors, chopped it, and just fiberglass and used panel bond and stuff to use the existing one, but chopped it in half and extended. The side skirts are Mazda Speed replicas. I got them on Marketplace, but then I ended up chopping it up, cutting it up, and because I didn't want it to originally I was supposed to actually go inside, so I ended up chopping it up and then molding it into the car. Then this is actually wide body, but I didn't want to have it all you know, screwed on or riveted on, whatever, how people do it. So I molded into the body. This was actually a challenge when you were talking about challenge, because I had to figure out a way where it doesn't hit, and at the same time I didn't want to. I'll show you when I open it.
Okay.
So I had to do a lot of like fitting, cutting, trying to make it work. So I had to actually cut half of it off, or a quarter of it off, and then I had to try to mold it and be able to close and open and not open too far, so I had to try to put a screw in there. I had to do a lot of finicking in order for this to fit flush, to have a flush OEM look. I used some stuff called plastic repair. That's what you could use on more rubbery or more urethane type of bumpers, and I seamlessly put it together, because if I didn't, then it would have had a gap right here. It would have been kind of like right here. I was gonna grind that down, but I kind of like that little lip that it had.
I see.
But, and then this, because I didn't want to spend any money, because they're expensive. I think they cost like $2,000 or so.
Yeah.
So I went to Yahoo Auctions, bought the brackets, and then I realized my friend has this wing. He has a FD. I don't know if you know Bobby.
Bobby.
He has a yellow FD.
Probably not.
But then he wasn't using his, and I tried to ask if I could buy it off him, and he's like, "No, man, no, dude." I was like, "Well, can I borrow it for 2 weeks?" So I ended up making a mold of it, and then I made my own. So, because I didn't want to, and I think I spent about like $400 of material. So I sold my own carpet.
Oh, okay.
And only because I could see if I could do it. And this is the little trunk space thing I made. So I could this is supposed to be for the spare tire, but you can't even you can't use the spare tire with these big wheels. The body could be on the ground.
Yeah.
So I save all the of course you need the 2 stroke when you run with rotaries with no oil meter pump. These are actually Kevmen, a Thailand company, which are really good. They know how to make a lot of cool civet parts.
Is it comfortable riding with just the foam right there, or?
I wouldn't spend hours riding with it, but I don't know. I don't drive it long enough. Yeah, I made the gauge pod because I had 3 gauges, and I'm like, I'll just make a gauge pod for it to put in. So engine is the block itself is stock, still the stock twins. I actually replaced it with a newer twins my friend gave to me. I think it only had like 20 or 25,000 miles on it, so I switched that out. My original twins, the primary were leaking a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna switch it out. So I ended up doing that, changing all the vacuum lines to silicone. There's a twin power for ignition. I don't know if you can see it in this angle over here. There's a down pipe, HKS, straight pipe all the way across to a media. I don't know how to say it.
Medallion?
Yeah. And also have the intake. I made this. This is a Rotary Extreme V-mount. This is a company that they don't make that stuff anymore. I think they're the first production V-mount for the car. That's how old school it is.
And inspired other people to do it too.
Yeah.
And let's say you made this too, right? This cover.
Yes, I made that. Sorry, yeah. I made that. Inspired by the R-Magic one, but they don't sell it, so I just designed my own. I think Bubble Tech, some company, was trying to make it, and they made the mold for it, but then it humbled him really quick as soon as he tried to do carbon fiber work, and he just kept messing up, and then he didn't want to sell it. It will humble you. That was my 2020 hobby when I decided, I'm good with fiberglass, and I'm really good at making molds. Let me work on carbon fiber. That wouldn't be that hard. As soon as I got into it, okay, I wasted a couple hundred. Okay, God, I'm wasting 1,000 or another 1,000. God, why am I not getting it right? So it humbled me. I bought a bunch of books. I'm wondering what I'm making mistakes on. Everything counts. Temperature, the amount of flow resin. Sometimes if you have a little leak in your, say if you're doing injection mold, like your just a little hairpin leak, then I had to buy a tool to try to listen to hairpin tools. I mean, I made so many mistakes. It was like, I made more mistakes than actually making a product.
So Vinny, I heard that you went to JCCS and also 7 Stock.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I got to meet the head coordinator of 7 Stock, some guy named Bernie, and I didn't even know. He came up to me, he was asking questions, and I'm just telling him, oh yeah, I did this and this and that, and he's like, yeah, I noticed that you did that. I'm like, wow, this guy knows a lot of stuff. And I'm like, every time I told him, like, yeah, that remind me of this, I'm like, yeah, that's what I kind of got inspired. I'm like thinking in my mind, but I was like confused. Then afterwards, I find out, oh my God, no wonder he knows all, so much about rotaries. He's the coordinator. Yeah. So that was pretty shocking, and he was very impressed by it, and that humbled me. I felt like that, interesting. I felt more of the 7 Stock was the highlight. I felt because I took best third gen out of all the Rotary, all the third gen RX7s, and that really struck me like, oh my God, you guys appreciate my work. That's awesome, like you guys notice my stuff. I don't pay attention when I make stuff. I just focus on building, but I don't think about it. But for other people to actually notice my work, it's very humbling. It's like, oh, this is cool, it's surreal. Okay, shout outs to mainly the first shout out is my wife. My wife is like I say, through thick and thin. I mean, she was able, when I wanted a part, I had MSO wheels, she was eating cup of noodles with me. She was my girlfriend, That's some dedication. She would help me save up to get parts. So that's, for her, she's the reason why I have things, and the reason why I am today. It's because like she was always supported, even if it's kind of weird. Even when I got into the caution thing, I went kind of hard, and she's like what are you into suddenly? Oh, okay, yeah.
She still supports you.
Yeah, but she was kind of confused, but she knew that. She no doubt that I was able to do what I was capable of doing. She knew my abilities. Then shout outs to good friends like my family, like Mark Jaw and Kevin Dunn from Steady Garage. Mark was more of like, anytime I have issues, he's kind of my lifeline, because I don't really know how to work on cars, and he kind of helps me like figure out if I get stuck on things. There's so many people that I could thank, for helping me throughout the journey, but I can't remember, I can't think, especially when I have a camera in front of my face.
Alright guys, so I want to thank you guys for watching the video today. Of course, I want to thank Vinny as well. But be sure to hit the subscribe button, because next week I'm going down to LA to meet up with Thomas and to film his MR2 with a 2ZZ GE motor from a Corolla GTS. So be sure to stay tuned for that video. But anyways, thank you, Vinny. I appreciate it very much for your time.
No worries, man.
And
likewise.
Such a beautiful car, and I know that you're going to put it for sale, so the next owner should be very lucky to own a piece of your work.
Yeah, hopefully so. I get to sell it.
Yeah.